Hello, ladies. I just accidentally ended the last video at 15 minutes, and so I'm going to give you a little bit of an epilogue here because I had a few more things that I wanted to talk about in the home in making it a pleasant place. And especially the woman has to have a good attitude and a good mood. And I think that she shouldn't terrorize her home with her fears, her bad feelings, her sometimes strong opinions, and try to make it a soothing experience to be at home. And having been a homeschooler, you do get to watch everyone's moods and make sure that they don't develop character qualities that would be detrimental to their future success in the home and to their families. And we want everyone to want to be home. But if your family has gone and they've left home and you're alone, you can still be interested in the home, and you can capitalize on it in many ways. You can learn many new things, and you can develop new talents. And recently I have been, and you can create new things just to give a little spark in the day that from your ordinary work. I like to sew. I love cloth. I rarely have time to really lay out something and cut it out and sew it anymore. And my goal now is getting my house in order so that I have a little more time to come here to sew and do things that I like to do. And so I think that I want to read to you something from Helen Andelin's book, like I have been reading in the past, and also tell you that one of the things that I have been doing is stealth sipping, which is taking tea somewhere else on the manse property or in the manse somewhere and just quietly trying out new teas. My favorite, of course, is Yorkshire Gold. I can't be kept from it. And that should be, isn't that from the movie North and South by her book Elizabeth Gaskell, where Margaret was found, who wanted to go back to Helston, her childhood home, where there were the flowers, and a young man said to her, the famous Helston, you can't be kept from it. And so I wanted to read something from a book called Stepping Heavenward. I have had this book, and we were so busy as homeschoolers. We got a lot of extra stuff and just never got around to reading it. And what it is a story of it's a diary of a 16-year-old girl, and takes her from the relationship she has at home with her family. And even I didn't want to read it because it kind of struck my heart as being kind of sad in a way, because whenever she had displeased her mother had tried to correct her, she took it so hard. And I think we don't realize as adults, when we say something to a young person, sometimes it comes to them in their ears as being extremely harsh, any kind of correction. And any kind of discipline seems worse. We as adults, it doesn't seem so bad, but they, being younger, smaller, maybe view it as terrorizing. And so when this girl sensed that her mother was saw some kind of character flaw in her, she wrote a long missive about it in her diary. And I was going to just skip around and find some of the good parts that were more cheerful, but the reason that when reading this, felt kind of sad is because I felt it, I think, when I was 16, if there was any kind of, even when no one was criticizing, sometimes I felt kind of reprimanded. And because, you're real sensitive and you start to see your faults, and you become a little nervous because you want to do well. And I remember at 16 wanting to be good and wanting to do well and never quite managing it. As Cynthia said in Wives and Daughters, I think you're a very good person, Molly. I never could manage it. What was it she said to herself? She said, I gave up myself as a heartless baggage years ago. So chapter 1, January 15, 1831. I'm just going to read a little bit of this and then attach it on the post so that you have a second one to listen to while you work. I want to just read the back of the book about what it's about here. It's called Stepping Heavenward by Elizabeth Prentice, first published in 1869, tells the story of Kate and her quest to live a better life. Well, I can remember feeling like that when I was 8 or 9 years old. I just wanted to do good. I wanted to step heavenward. I wanted to go forward in my life and just learn so many things that would give me skills, and also how to get along with people in life, and how to be able to manage in life. And I remember many of us of that era of the 1950s felt that by the time we'd have completed 5th grade, if we had to, we would be ready to live a life. If our education stopped and we stopped going to school, we knew that by 5th grade we had enough knowledge and skills that we could manage if we had to. By watching her godly mother, with whom she becomes easily irritated at times, Kate learns about striving for excellence, a no-nonsense approach to Christian living. Stepping Heavenward employs good humor, all the while leading the reader to ponder deeper, eternal matters. The Diary of Kate reveals innocence coupled with an acute awareness of her naturally human tendencies. Through Stepping Heavenward, we learn that small things really do matter, as Kate matures into a young woman with true depth of character. While Kate's freckled-faced candor is truly refreshing, the artfully penned expressions woven throughout this reading provide great reading. There is humor, seriousness, and some sadness as Kate progresses through the stages of life. Through it all, author Elizabeth Prentice displays an astonishing ability to put the struggles faced by all men and women who desire to live for Christ, yet are confronted by their flawed humanity, into words. Stepping Heavenward is elevating and interesting, a book that both mothers and daughters will enjoy. And looking back at my own life, I see what the problem was, is that I didn't realize at the time that we cannot be absolutely, we set up a perfection for ourselves, especially as young people, absolutely perfect. And if we make one little mistake, it can crush us, and we think, oh, the day is ruined. I made a mistake. I broke something. I forgot to do something. I didn't do something well. I got in an argument with my brother or something like that, and you don't realize that we can't achieve that kind of perfection, but all we can do is to ask God's forgiveness and forgive ourselves and move on. And some people just get stuck in the past and cannot live their lives because of the disappointments, So this is an interesting story, and I'm seeing it in a different way now. I'm actually seeing it in quite a good way. At first it depressed me because of her disappointments, but it gets better. So I'm going to read the first part, probably chapter 1 here. How dreadfully old I am getting. January 15, 1831. 16 now. Well, I don't see as I can help it. There it is in the big Bible in Father's own hand. Catherine, born January 15, 1815. I meant to get up early this morning, but looked dismally cold out of doors and felt delightfully warm in bed, so I covered myself up and made ever so many good resolutions. I determined in the first place to begin this journal. To be sure, I have begun half a dozen and got tired of them after a while. That sounds like me. I'd get started in some kind of record writing, in a book or something, and then there'd be a dull time and nothing to write about, or maybe some drastic thing happened that I wouldn't want to write about, or wouldn't want anyone to read later on, and it depressed me. Then I would give up, and there'd be these notebooks all over the place with 2 pages filled in. So here she is. She had the same problem, and there's nothing new under the sun. Not tired of writing them, but disgusted with what I had to say of myself. But this time I mean to go on in spite of everything. It will do me good to read it over and see what a creature I am. Then I resolved to do more to please Mother than I have done, and I determined to make one more effort to conquer my hasty temper. I thought, too, I would be self-denying this winter, like the people who one reads about in books. I fancied how surprised and pleased everybody would be to see me so much improved, and that reminds me of Emma. She was always talking about improvement, wasn't she? And she told Mr. Knightley, what a waste to be 20 and to be so flawed and not having improved. to reach the age of 20 and not really have improved. Time passed quickly amidst these agreeable thoughts, and I was quite startled to hear the bell ring for prayers. I jumped up in a great flurry and dressed as quickly as I could. That sounds like from the Jane Austen book that I just read. They would get up early in the morning for prayers. Everything conspired together to plague me. I could not find a clean collar or a handkerchief. Now, those days, and even in the 1980s, we had the Laura Ashley dresses where you could buy a Battenberg collar or a knit collar or some crocheted collar, and in order to give the dress or blouse a different look, you'd attach a different collar on it, and then you would just wash the collar, and you didn't always have to be washing the dress. And I still have all those collars from that era, and I'm thinking they might be coming back. I could not find a clean collar or a handkerchief. It is always just so. Susan is forever poking my things into out-of-the-way places. When at last I went down, they were all at breakfast. I hoped you would celebrate your birthday, dear, by coming down in good season, said Mother. I do hate to be found fault with, so I fired up in an instant. If people hide my things so I can't find them, of course I have to be late, I said. You know, we should be saying to ourselves, Dear Lord, put a seal on my lips. And that's the best way not to be retorting back all the time, is not to say anything. And just practice it by seeing how things go if you don't. Now, of course, we don't like for people to have a false opinion of us or accuse us of things that are false. It's not good to let them believe lies. So it is good to defend yourself if you have to. But I think that it can be done very gently. And I think I rather said it in a very cross way, for Mother sighed a little, and I wish Mother wouldn't sigh. I would rather be called names out and out. The moment breakfast was over, I had to hurry off to school. Just as I was going out, Mother said, Have you your overshoes, dear? Oh, Mother, don't hinder me. I shall be late. I said, I don't need overshoes. It snowed all night, and I think you need them, Mother said. I don't know where they are. I hate overshoes. Do let me go, Mother, I cried. I do wish I could ever have my own way. Well, you shall have it now, my child, said Mother, and went away. And so I'm going to stop there because there is something I want to discuss about that. And that is, even if you're vital, you have to be careful when someone says something like, be careful on that ice, or be careful with that gadget in the kitchen, or don't join that organization online, or something like that. Because those are just natural responses, you know. Don't walk on the floor if there's water on it. You might fall. And we'll say it to each other as adults, but you have to quit saying. You cannot say and respond to people with words like, "Well, do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think I'm stupid?" And don't say things like, Mother, I've reached an age of such and such, and I've already done this and done that, and I'm not stupid, you know, because those are just natural things that people say, like hello, goodbye, and how is the weather? When someone says, don't hurt yourself. Now, I must have been 60 years old when I was chopping up a salad or something, and my father said, and he was in his 80s, and he said, be careful not to cut yourself, dear. Because he always ended everything with dear, you know, and if you ask him a question or something, would you like, he'd say, yes, dear, and he'd always say dear, but be careful. And I stopped and I thought, you know, it's actually an endearing thing when someone says, be careful not to harm yourself, be careful not to fall, be careful, don't run through the house, be careful. Instead of responding in such a lightning way as this girl said, her mother, all she said was, be sure and wear your overshoes. And the girl became very cross with it. Or when she said, it's your birthday, I wish you would have come down a little earlier, she said, well, people were hiding my stuff. And watch those hasty, sharp replies. And they start when you're young, but even if you're in your 40s or your 50s, you can get irritated when someone's just trying to help you. And you can get irritated with your children, and all they're saying is, be careful with that door. It's not working very well. Or even a child will say something to his mother because they feel a caution, and the mother will snap back at them saying, oh, I'm a grown woman, I've already had so many kids. And I know that this generation is probably harder because they have not been home, and they have not seen how the home works, how people talk to each other, how the mother talks to you on a daily basis. And if the parents have sent them out to be educated by somebody else, that interaction is missed. And but as older women, we especially need to be careful with our hasty, sharp replies, our quick judgments, and a condemning attitude. Somehow it comes across as more harsh when you're vital. And that's why I say it's very important to, even if you're elderly, you can learn to be refined. You can learn to be nice. It's not too late, and as long as you're vital, it's not too late for just about anything. So ladies, I hope that you enjoyed that, and I will read to you a little bit more from The Fascinating Womanhood, because if you took out, I think what people don't like about this is the part in the front where she talks about men and how to talk to men, and how to be nice to your husband and things like that, and how to be less judgmental and stuff like that. But if you just left out all that and you still just studied the character, you'd come out really good. So today I want to read part of her chapter on humility, which is a great quality. Humility is freedom from pride or arrogance. A humble person is aware of his virtues, talents, and advantages, but realizes his weaknesses, mistakes, and limitations. He is neither haughty nor self-effacing. He has a correct opinion of himself. Now, in The Fascinating Girl, she wrote a chapter on bad character in men to avoid, and one of them was conceit, and so she's talking about this right now. And so a lot of times young girls are attracted to real conceited men, and then other times these men are just humorous men that they misperceive and misjudge as being conceited when they're not. And this is where they need to learn to detect good character and bad character. And so let's continue. When you are humble, you don't think of yourself as better, smarter, or more fortunate than the other person. Now, oftentimes, when a homeschool mother is trying to teach her children good character and the children say, well, why can't we do this? That other family, even in the church, they let their kids do that. You can say, we have different values than they do. This is not one of our family values. And so you don't want to say, well, we're better than they are, but you want to say, this is what Jesus teaches, and we're going to try to follow that. You say they have their values, and this is what we're following. And you can get in a terrible argument sometimes about this, because sometimes children will jump on this idea that you think you're better than they are. That's why you don't participate in this worldly thing that they're allowing their family to do. And you do have to stand up to that. It doesn't mean we think we are better than that person. It just means that we want to follow a better way. You may be better in some ways, but not as good in other ways. Although you may have abilities, talents, and accomplishments for which you can honestly be proud, you are not all you could be or should be. There's always room for improvement. That's right, and no matter how vile you get, there's always room for improvement. And the best thing to do is, like this girl shows in this book, Stepping Heavenward, where she shows various times where she stops to pray to ask God to control her mood and control her attitude. And this is why I say in the preparation part of getting ready for the home to include your prayer, and ask God to control your moods so that you don't become sharp, hasty, sharp replies, or contradictory or argumentative immediately, and to be kind. The Savior set a perfect example of humility. Although he was the chosen Son of God without sin and overcame all things, he lived among the common people and dined with sinners. Although his disciples worshipped him, he did not rise above them in an attitude of superiority. In humility, he bowed before them, washed their feet, wiped them with a towel, that was girded about him. By this act, he impressed upon them in a dramatic way the requirement that men remain humble. Humility can be further understood by reviewing its opposite, arrogance or pride. Arrogance is an ungrounded feeling of superiority and an inability to see one's own weaknesses and limitations. This fault can be commonly viewed in the following areas of life. And so she includes these areas of life: worldly goods, knowledge, righteousness, and sometimes responsibility, diligence, and things like that. She has a lot of character qualities here she lists too: diligence, patience, moral courage, honesty, and many other things regarding human frailties. So she includes in this list of human frailties, because it's about how to achieve a worthy character, is laziness, selfishness, lack of self-discipline, criticalness, lack of dependability, greed, and arrogance. And she shows how to overcome it all, and that's what I'm trying to say here. We will read more about this later, but one of the things that you can do, first of all, to overcome just a malaise, a laziness, just I don't care thing, is to get yourself dressed for the home. And then make your list on how you can, of the things that absolutely need to be done to make it run smoothly. You can join Fly Lady, which is online, which I don't think you have to join. You can just go look through her stuff and print some of it off. It will help you keep on a schedule, and it's a very good help. And pray that God would help you to overcome all of your weaknesses so that you can have a happy home life and you can guide and guard the home according to Titus 2, and that you can be responsible for making it the best place you can be. Now, ladies, this is just intended to be a tag-along segment for the previous video, which I cut off too soon. So, thank you for coming, and thank you for everything you do for me. I'm so grateful for you, and I really hope to get my home in order so that I can come here more regularly. And I just love your comments, and I hope you'll come back. I'm very impressed that anyone would come and listen, but it's a lot easier than having to go somewhere. And so till I see you again, stay close to Christ. Bye.